Okay. All right. Excuse me. Hello. It's 6:30. It's 6:30 and we're calling to order the zoning. Please stop talking. Hello.
Guys,
Hello. I'm calling to order the Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting for Thursday, May 15th, 2025. It's at 6:30. And roll call around the table. We'll start with
Eric Gatlin, Land Use Coordinator.
Michaela Pearson, alternate.
Kathleen Tracy, alternate.
Russell Fogg, member.
Stephanie Mickle, member.
Nancy Hutchinson, chair. Kip Kotzen is on his way, but he's not here for the first case anyway, so it's okay.
Stephen Dex, member.
Brian Cole, alternate.
Sylvia Rakowska, council.
Okay. And absent is Amy Hewitt, our ZBA clerk. Just to let anybody know who's here for 307 Swan Avenue, that the opening of that public hearing has been delayed until the June meeting. So if you're here for that meeting, you can take off. All right. We have we have one continued case and 3 new cases today, and to facilitate efficient review, I'd ask the applicants to please present the evidence that an unusual and unnecessary hardship exists based on strict application of the zoning regulations due to some particular condition of the property itself, and that the condition does not generally affect other properties in the district. Second, that the evidence that the variances requested are the minimum necessary to alleviate the unusual hardship and allow reasonable use of the property. And also, whether any reduction in legal pre-existing nonconformity is proposed. Also, the evidence that the variances requested are in harmony with the intent and purpose of the zoning regulations and the comprehensive plan of zoning. And for applications with a coastal site plan review, please address the Connecticut DEP comments. And for projects in the conservation zone, please address the Connecticut River Gateway comments. So with that, we're going to start with our first continued case, which is case 25-2C 9 Calkins Road. Request variances to construct a new 2-story single-family dwelling with septic system and well on an unimproved R10 lot in an AE11 coastal flood zone located in the conservation zone within 100 feet of the mean high tide line, the coastal jurisdiction line, and tidal wetlands. A coastal site plan review application was also submitted. This case is continued from the April 17th ZBA meeting, at which 8 exhibits were submitted by the applicant, including a new site plan and revised zoning table. Additional applicant submissions since the April meeting was a May 7th letter from the Connecticut River Gateway Commission responding to the revised April plans, a May 9th letter from Attorney McCauley describing additional revisions to the application, revised plans with updated zoning table to be submitted soon. And yesterday, we received new site plans, floor plans, and elevations dated May 8th through 12th, and they were just received yesterday. So, seated for this case, because it's a continued case, is myself, Stephanie Mickle, Steve Dix, Brian Cole, Michaela Pearson, who are all present at the April 17th ZBA meeting. And the revised list of new variances requested are to sections, this is a new one, 4.3, no structures within 50 feet of a tidal wetlands. There was a little confusion if it's section 4.3 or 4.2.12, but we can clarify that during the meeting. Then also section 4.3.1, in the conservation zone, no building or other structure, including drainage structures, septic systems, and wells, shall be extended within less than 100 feet of the mean high tide of Connecticut River or any of its tributaries or associated wetlands. 4.10.3, Connecticut River setbacks need to be at least 100 feet away from the coastal jurisdiction line. Removed from the requested variances are building height, 4.10.7, because they've revised plans are less than 35 feet high. 4.10.8, no cutting of vegetation within 50 feet of the coastal jurisdiction line to maintain riparian vegetative buffer. A new variance to section 8.6, 30 feet from front setback from a narrow street. 8.85, maximum stories 1.5 stories maximum, and 8.86, maximum height 25 feet maximum. I think that's all the variances. Let me just see. Yes, okay. So with that introduction, I'd like to ask the applicants to please come up and present their revised plans. And also today we got Oh, no, that's right. No, never mind. Okay. Nope.
Afternoon, evening. Hello.
Yeah, thank you.
How are you? I'm just here to present the revisions to the site plan, which unfortunately were only completed because the architect had some delays, and so that got the site plan delayed. So you should have received the site plan. Okay,
Yes,
you have it.
yes.
Okay. So I have a very small version of it that I'm going to work off of.
Yeah. I did want to mention that I noticed as I was reading your letter and
Yeah.
the revised table and there seems to be some differences in the height
Yeah,
and the
so that was
first
one
floor
thing I was
elevation.
gonna,
Okay. Okay.
point out.
Okay.
So, based on the delay in getting the architectural drawings, my communications with my client, I was under the impression that the first floor elevation would be reduced to 14. Apparently, it was reduced, instead of 2.5 feet to 14, it was reduced 1 foot to 15 and a
That's
half.
what I thought. Okay,
Okay.
just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Right. So that was me working off of communications and not having had the advantage of looking at the plan because it wasn't completed yet.
As long as we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
So it's reduced 1 foot. So the height and
Has
the first
been
floor
reduced.
elevation is 1 foot reduced.
Right.
Okay, great.
And in fact, I think the height overall was reduced more than 1 foot because there was a reduction in the, at last month's hearing, you had raised the issue that perhaps the attic space might qualify as a half story.
Yeah.
And so the plans were revised to ensure that the maximum peak height was below 6 feet. I think it's 5.10.
I couldn't find that on the plan.
Yeah,
Actually.
as long as we're agreeing what it is, because I think I was confused because the zoning table said 34 point something.
Yeah.
The height on the measurements on this
Right.
elevation said, on one side it was 32.2, on one side it was 34.2, so I thought if everything was 33, as long as we come up with a number that we all
I
agree
think
on.
part of the problem is that the plans go by feet and inches, and I think the zoning table might be, 40 point something feet instead of,
No, I think in the zoning table it says that they figured out the zoning from the lowest natural grade, not the
Right.
average natural grade.
6 feet.
Right, but it's now that they've moved it back 5 feet, it's the average is 6 feet on one side and 7 feet on the other side. So I think it's just a question of how it was measured, and I think we're
I believe it was measured from 6.
right instead of the
So
average
instead of
grade.
the
So it's-
average,
so
right.
it makes the height actually a little bit lower.
Right, correct.
Okay, good. All right, if we're all on the same page.
Okay. So, what we failed to request last month was the 50 feet buffer area of the tidal wetlands. I thought it was 4.3, but I don't know if it's 4.2 point, whatever it was.
I
that
think
you
it's
done.
4.2.12. Yeah.
4.2.12.
Yeah, okay, so as long as we correct that too. 4.2.12.
Just gonna-
Great.
12. Okay. So that's been added because the septic system, and I believe, I'm going to bring this up. This is a revised plan that has all these lines in it with the distances
Yeah,
that are different
exactly,
colors so
great.
that it would be easier for you to see.
Thank you.
I don't know if Fern dropped this off for you.
We did get copies that were dropped off. They should be in the package, I hope, but,
Yeah,
okay.
it's probably here.
yep, I see them there.
So this is the wetlands, tidal wetlands line.
Yeah,
And the septic is at just about 50 feet for the edge of this field. Now, this area of disturbance, however, is closer to, is less than 50 feet by however wide that section is. So we've still included this variance,
thank you.
right? You're welcome. This distance, let's see, this is,
Can people see this or they know from their own plans? Yeah. I think it's not that different than last month, except for the position of the house, correct?
It is actually.
maybe, yeah.
Thank you. You're very kind.
I don't even know if it's gonna help for people from far away, because the
Well,
writing is so small.
But the lines are big and thick.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So this line here is the tidal wetlands line. And this is the 50-foot distance marked here. This is also marked, but this is 55.5 feet. But again, there's a little area of
Yeah.
disturbance that's going to happen around the edge of, during the installation process, and then it'll all be covered over. So we kept that on there. The house is, let's see, the house is, well, if this is 53, I'm going to guess that this is probably this is the deck part of the house.
Yeah, you can
and
see
the
the little
actual
red
house
line.
is here.
Yeah,
Right. Oh yeah, is that
that's
from
the
coast?
50-foot from the
Wetlands?
wetlands. Yeah,
So it does cut through right there.
but it's better than it was before.
Right.
Thank you.
Only because we've eliminated the bump out that was here and pushed it back as far as we could without violating the regular setbacks.
Yes,
We did violate the
narrow road.
road, but we've pushed that back. Okay. Any other questions about that?
Nope.
Okay, so the mean high water mark is this line here. And so this now, the distance from here to the deck is shown as 95.7 feet, almost outside now of the mean high water. And of course, this is above grade because it's from the first floor, which is now raised because of the flood zone. So really, this distance, this is a 12, no. How wide is the deck? Not wide, long-wise, but deep.
I don't know, I don't think she changed it, it's still at 12 feet.
12 feet. Okay, so it's out. The footprint of the building then is outside, and maybe just the support posts of the deck are in the
That's good.
tidal, the high water buffer. The septic is still in the high water. It's
Yeah.
93 feet to the edge here.
But that can't move any further.
That isn't fixed
Yeah,
because
exactly.
of the location of the wells, as we addressed at last month's meeting. The CJL, the coastal jurisdiction line, is this red line. And this, I believe, this brown line is that's 50 feet from the coastal. Yeah, this is 50 feet for the riparian buffer. So again, that goes.
Oh, good. You're outside.
We're outside of the riparian buffer for the structure, but not the septic. But the septic can't be
It's
moved
as far as it
because
can
of
go.
those. As far as the 100-foot buffer, that's taking us all the way out to the actual.
Front setback.
Right, goes out all the way to the front setback.
So basically, if I understand, you've minimized as much as possible the environmental impacts. It's either we approve this or we don't approve anything at all, which is not
Right.
really.
We've moved as far from the natural
Yeah.
resources
Yeah.
on this property or of the town that we can, while still maintaining sort of a reasonable distance from
From
the
the
front
street.
yard for the safety of the people in the home and for the people who might be driving. I don't know what. But, and it's, the footprint is fairly modest in that
Yeah.
it's not been expanded. It's a modular design, so it's probably the minimum you can
Yeah.
get in this and maintain that maybe 1,000 square foot footprint.
I think you've done a lot to improve it. That's good.
Right, and you're constrained by both the septic and the border on the other side on what the width of that building can be.
Right, there is a setback here, a 12-foot setback from the side, 25 feet in the front,
And you have your separation from the septic.
and we have the separation from the
So
septic.
really, you've squeezed it into
Right.
the only available area.
Right. There was, there's no real ability to, there was no real ability to add a garage structure here But that was sort of not a great alternative because A, it created more impervious surface on the lot. And
I think you,
it increased the bulk
right,
by tucking the garage and the parking underneath the existing footprint.
minimizes
It
the impact.
minimizes the impact on the rest of the property and reduces the flow, and it still makes reasonable use of the space underneath underneath the house for.
Which gets to the other question we had before about the height,
Correct.
which is that your rationalization now is that it's minimizing impact to the site because you're not making a separate structure for garage. It's safer for on-street
Parking, that's
off-street
right, pulls the
parking.
street, park people off the
And-
street and allows them to
And
park
so and you've lowered it as low as you can do and still have it be functional as a garage.
reasonably used as
So
a
those
garage.
are all
My
rational.
concern about
Yes.
the garage is that it was described as a slab, so it's not impervious. I mean, it is impervious.
Correct, but the whole house it's underneath the existing structure, so the house itself is also impervious. But so it's not increasing the impervious
Well,
surface.
the water could run under and soak in.
Well, they actually have a system to collect the rainwater from the roof and divert it to a rain garden.
But you also changed the driveway to a pervious crushed
Correct.
stone.
It is now labeled as they intended always. It just wasn't labeled that way
Yeah.
to be crushed stone.
Yeah. And it is in the AE flood zone, so that is
And
acceptable.
I believe the board should have received the revised version of the coastal boundary review from DEEP where he corrects
Yeah,
his interpretation of what zone it's in.
yeah.
So, in that vein, on that sort of topic and somewhat related, the boundary between the two zones, right?
Yeah,
It was pretty close.
yeah. I
Right, so
agree
it
with
was an honest mistake on the part of the engineer at DEP because it was so sort of close. And so there was some consideration given to that in that, it's not that the home isn't required to be built to VE, I think,
VE,
standards,
yeah, mhm.
right? But so it's built to AE standards, but the additional height may benefit and provide some additional safety and protection to the structure and the.
So if I recall, last time it was 4.5 feet higher than necessary. Now you've reduced it to a foot.
3.5 feet.
And the extra 1.5 feet of that 3.5 feet is related to making it more VE flood zone like, because that's
Right.
1 foot above the structural support needs to be 1 foot above the base flood elevation.
That's correct.
So then it's a difference of
provides
2 feet to
additional-
allow it to be used as a garage,
A reasonable
off-street
use of the-
parking. Okay, just making sure I'm all on the same page.
Right.
Th-
Okay.
Does someone else have any questions
Yeah.
about that, the changes that they've made since last time?
I thought that we had asked that the size of the deck be reduced, to reduce the nonconformity last time, and it doesn't look like that was done.
I don't remember that, but that's a good thing. And I think Steve had asked the question, what's a functional size of the deck? And
Well, I was concerned with the surface of the material below the deck, and making sure it's stable and also permeable. So, if it gets flooded, et cetera.
so the size of the deck is,
The deck is raised off the ground, right?
So it's up in the air.
It's up in the air.
But you need to stabilize the soil or whatever below so that you
Right,
don't
to
have
put
the
some-
erosion and other effects, from the storm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know what efforts are made to stabilize the,
I think gravel is fine. But
Yeah.
you just-
so if there was some, getting to your point about if it's elevated and not on the ground, if there's something underneath it to stabilize the ground so it's not eroded, that would be address mostly your concern?
Yes.
Okay.
okay.
So basically gravel under the deck.
Crushed
Okay.
stone, something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the house is on slab and it's not pilings, right? It's just-
Because
It's not pilings,
It's
correct.
AE flood zone, so they don't
Yeah.
need that. And they do have flood
Flood
vents all the way
Okay.
around.
Right, the architectural drawings show well, this doesn't have the architectural drawings on it, but the architectural drawings did for last month and also this month have flood vents. They're shown in.
They're all the way around.
Right, there's-
They're either all the way
marked
around or they're,
FV.
yep, flood vents, I saw that.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. All right. So I guess that addresses the DEP comments to make sure that it complies with all
Well,
AE 11 flood
there's
zone.
maybe DEP, but Gateway also talked about like dark sky
Yep.
lighting, and
Yeah.
I see you have two fixtures on the plans, and they were both listed as dark sky. Are they planning on more lighting? Because all that design needs to be.
Sure, there will be
Approved.
lighting, but these are the types of fixtures that they were intending to use, and I think the lighting plan will come as part of the.
So getting to Stephanie's point, because the Connecticut Gateway hasn't reviewed this updated plan, and you'd like a decision today, would you be acceptable to say that as a condition of approval that the that is submit an prior that they provide a landscaping plan retaining as many existing native non-invasive trees as vegetation as possible, and provide a lighting plan that is dark sky compliant to the Gateway for review?
We would be able to provide that when they're completed and when they're ready to be.
Right. So I'm
Yes.
saying, so as a condition of approval of variance, to say that you would
We
get
will submit them for a review.
review. Do we need to say for they don't approve though? How would you?
Also the landscape. The
That's right.
The landscaping and the lighting.
You said that, you did say
I
that.
mean, at the time of the application, it would be referred to Gateway by me, so
Yeah.
submit to me to Gateway referral, I guess. And the Gateway doesn't have a veto, they're just gonna give a report back regarding those conditions there, so.
So what would you say is a condition of approval to say the buy-in of the Gateway Commission for the landscape plan and the lighting? How would we word that? Or we don't word that anywhere?
Well, I'm not sure you necessarily need or want to give Gateway veto over the final plan or a consultant agency, but certainly,
Consult with?
yeah, consult with Gateway and respect their comments regarding landscaping and dark sky. Is that sufficiently strong a recommendation? I don't know what your thoughts down there, Sylvia.
No, I think they should comply. I don't
But
think there
she's
should be
saying-
a recommendation.
Well, the problem
Like,
is,
consider.
it doesn't come back to you, right? So if
Uh-huh.
Gateway says after the fact, I want X, Y, and Z, there's no forum for them to say that. And there's no forum,
But they could comply with it, whatever Gateway says.
yes, but you also don't know what Gateway's going to say.
And there's,
Consult, would say to consult with the Gateway on the final landscaping and lighting plans? Is that?
The applicants are more than happy to provide a landscape plan
Yeah.
and a lighting plan for the zoning, the land use officer's review, and if that requires a referral, that's
Okay.
perfectly reasonable and, right?
So we don't need it as a condition of approval of variance? Or would?
Well, what's the alternative? Can we say that we are going to defer this until we have Gateway's input?
Why
And
isn't
lighting
it just
plan?
sufficient to prepare the plans? I mean, why do we have to put a value on it? It would seem to me if we require that they provide, maybe based on comments provided by Gateway, that should be sufficient. And we look at that and we say, look, it seems okay to me.
I know that the applicants are willing to prepare a plan that addresses the concerns that the Gateway Commission has.
I think that's
already
where-
raised.
That's what I think we're getting at.
Right.
Because they don't have the final yes or no decision, but we do.
Right, but we don't have a lighting plan to review.
Well, you
I
have
don't
a-
know if that's a requirement of the application for variance. It's not on,
So Gateway asks for lots of things. They're not necessarily all relevant to your specific considerations. So to the extent you want to work with Gateway or acknowledge those things, I think asking that they be consistent with Gateway's recommendations. The struggle that I think both Eric and I are having is, one, there needs to be some finality with your decision as opposed to ambiguity. And because the applicant, if there's something that Gateway says that the applicant's not willing to do, where are we with appeals? When do they get to discuss that? Does Gateway functionally get to impose something that voids your decision? So it's problematic to sort of say that. We're also not really at a stage where like a fully developed lighting plan or landscape for what we're talking about exists. It would be one thing if it was in existence and they just needed to double check it. We're a little further away from that. So I think, as always, when we're talking about the conditions of any kind, much less Gateways, are they relevant to your decision making? Like, would you deny this application if it didn't have a lighting plan consistent with Gateway's recommendations?
Yeah, I was
Yes.
gonna say the same thing, which is.
And the
does your
landscape.
Evaluation of the unique hardship turn on whether they have a landscaping plan or a lighting plan.
No, but we can stipulate that it has to be a dark sky lighting plan, and that is according to the state, right?
Well, that's a specific
Right.
thing that I think is understandable, not ambiguous, that yes.
I mean, just given
To
the
give a
site,
landscaping
I
plan
think that's
that
really
they
important.
review, and that's a little too much back and forth.
Right.
So dark sky, I think, is a typical thing. Again, I'm not sure that it would change your decision if they
So,
didn't say
so
that,
let me,
but
let me just throw out a possible wording, because this is what I was thinking about ahead of time. It's like, provide a landscaping plan retaining as many existing native and non-invasive trees and vegetation as possible, which is the recommendation of the Gateway. Provide a lighting plan that is dark sky compliant. And so,
Yeah.
I think if we put,
That makes me happy.
okay, that's what I was trying to draft, something that got to Sylvia's point that they're not the deciders, but we want to incorporate their guidance, and you very willingly want to work with
Yes.
them, but we want to come to a decision here so you can get to the point where you can get enough detail to have those things be compliant. Okay, so I'm going to circle these two things, and you would agree to those as potential
Yes,
conditions of approval.
absolutely.
And while we're talking about conditions, condition of approval that construction comply with all FEMA and building code requirements, including height and foundation vents. I don't need to say that last part, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that has to.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but we have had
Yes.
people come and show plans and they're
Right.
don't
No,
look to
not
be
a
really,
problem.
yeah. I think
I think it's in the owner's best interest to be compliant with the regulations.
and the only last thing I was thinking about maybe is that obtain final health department approval after additional test pits and inspections completed. Because in the Ledgely Health District approval, they said it was conditional on additional test pits, except, yeah, that's what I mean,
From the engineer was that was a common occurrence when.
yes.
before they-
It is common, but it just means that, it still
Right,
means
we need
that
to do that, yeah.
you got to get the final approval.
Right.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay, great. And I think the only other thing I was thinking of, I don't know what this means, but the Connecticut DEP said there may be a tidal wetland permit required from Connecticut DEP. I didn't know what that was.
The engineer is not.
Okay, I think I'll leave that.
I don't believe that there is. And if
Okay,
there is,
I
it's
didn't-
a separate from your jurisdiction anyway. I mean, I don't think that affects your
I didn't,
evaluation.
that's what I just wanted to ask, but it was on one of those checklists that he had in
I
his
understand.
comments.
But since they're not doing a dock or anything that's below coastal jurisdiction, I don't think there's anything that's within DEEP's jurisdiction to
Okay.
determine this.
And then the last thing I was thinking of too is, I didn't know, do we need to submit updated plans and zoning table with correct aggregate consistent first floor elevation and overall average height? Or are we all agreed that it's 15.5 and 33.2 or something like that?
It's for certain 15.5 and
32, yeah.
30.
Okay, that-
32.5?
33.2.
33 to.
Because one site was measured from the 6-foot average grade, and one was
15.5.
Okay. As long as we have that, we're agreeing that that's what that is, and we have the final plan that says that I can stamp and sign, then we're done.
The engineer's plan doesn't have, oh wait, the engineer's plan has it on the zoning table, yeah.
it still says 34 something.
Yeah, 34.
So that was my concern, that the elevations did not match the site plan, which did not match the letter.
It has 34.16 feet. I don't know what that is in feet and inches.
But
But
it's 34, not 33.
Right, so it has, he does the math here at the bottom, if you look at the asterisk.
He said that he does it from the lowest average grade, he does from
Not
the
the
lowest
average,
grade,
right.
not the average grade, which means the average grade height is lower because it's higher on one end than the
Oh,
other.
so you just,
Just making
right.
it 33.2 feet or,
33.2 on the zoning table.
yes.
We'll send it in.
Whatever the math is.
Yeah, exactly, whatever the math is, but
The correct math on the zoning.
because on the elevations, it has it, on one side it says 34, on the other side it says 32, so the average is 33. Okay. Then, you've addressed most of my questions from last time and the board's questions from last time. Does anybody else have any other questions they would like addressed?
Is there anything on the plan that does show the attic, maximum attic height?
Do you have
Because
anything on
I
your?
couldn't find anything in the new plans.
So,
The elevations look like it.
it doesn't have it.
It doesn't have it marked, but you
Here,
could do it by
marked.
scale.
Because, it was like 15.5 for the first floor, and then I have 24.8, which is like, the 8.5 foot floor, 8.5 inch floor. It's like an extra foot there. I'm not,
Well, that's, I
wasn't
think
getting the
because
math
that's,
on that.
I think the thickness of the floor relates to the the modules. The modular components have a floor base and a ceiling base, and when they put them together, do you have a drawing?
This
that
is
shows-
drawn to scale. If you just had a if you wanted to measure. Oh, there you go.
What is this?
You might want to mention what you're looking at.
We're looking at a cell phone picture of the heights of each floor and the attic area, and the attic area is 5 feet 1.5 inches high.
And I can submit that with the revised zoning data table
Awesome.
plan.
Thank you.
So that would be exhibit 10.
Exhibit 10, when it comes, does anybody
I
want
want
to?
Yes.
to mark, because you've referenced
Oh.
it, so I want to, you'll get the physical copy, but
And
since
mark
you
it
looked
exhibit
at
Exhibit 10.
I
Okay.
believe we're up to 10.
Does anybody want to
Yes,
see
we
it?
are.
It's dark.
'Cause it was-
Oh, it's, anyway, does
But
anybody
I-
else want to see it? Because David will.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also we could tell, because this is drawn to scale, we could measure, but anyway, but that's good. So it's clearly 2 stories, not 2.5 stories. Good question, Stephanie.
Any other questions?
I think you addressed my questions. Anyone have any questions? I think you've also explained why is the 2-story versus 1.5 story, because you're pulling in the less impact on the site, so it's just squinching the footprint.
That's
that
right,
makes
and
it-
it's a modest footprint to begin with, and it just
exactly.
allows them to make better, more reasonable use of the
And it's nice that you
dwelling.
have the rain garden. Okay, so I think if we're agreed on the conditions of approval, and no one has any other questions, we'll open up to public comments. Would anybody like to speak in favor of this application? Would anybody like to speak in opposition to this application? Would anybody like just to comment on this application? No? Okay, no public comments. So with that in mind, and we've clarified the variance to 4.2.12 instead of 4.3. Okay, all right. So would anybody like to make a motion to close the public hearing for case 25-2C9 Calkins Road?
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Who's first?
that was Steve made the motion, and Michaela made the motion, a second motion, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? None. All those abstaining? None. The motion passed unanimously 5-0. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Thank you very much and I think the board really appreciated your effort to work in minimizing the environmental impacts and taking the feedback. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Only voting members may participate in deliberations. So that's the 5 members that were here last time. No information may be introduced at the close of public hearing, but members may be able to ask the ZBA attorney and staff for procedural questions. So usually before we make a motion, we discuss the evidence presented during the public hearing, potential conditions of approval agreed by the applicant, and potential reasons for granting or denying the variances prior to make a motion. So I think we used to talk about hardship. So I think that the hardship they have is that basically the entire property is in the environmental setback. Environmental setback, okay. I think there's no reduction of legal pre-existing nonconformity because nothing exists. I think it is the minimum variance to address the hardship because they've minimized the impact, the environmental impact. I'm just giving Stephanie a chance to capture this. They've incorporated input of the Gateway and the Connecticut DEP and the board. They've agreed to 1, 2, 3, 4 conditions of approval. I'll just read them again so people know. Obtain final health department approval after additional test pits and inspections completed. Construction to comply with all FEMA and building code requirements. Provide a landscaping plan retaining as many existing native non-invasive species and non-invasive trees and vegetation as possible, and provide a lighting plan that is dark sky compliant. Okay, you don't have to write all those down because I have them written down. I think it's in harmony with the intent and purpose of zoning regulations because they really have minimized the potential for environmental impacts as much as possible, and they've justified each variance they're requesting. And they're very close to being outside those limits on some of those environmental factors. So I think they're in harmony with the intent and purpose of zoning regulations. Anybody else have anything to add?
I think you could reference the location of the existing wells limits.
Ah, that's right. Okay. Location, that's one of the hardships. Location of existing, right here.
Yeah.
Location of existing wells limits location of septic and structure. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, and the final reason is the evidence presented during the public hearing and the reasons articulated by the board and within the public hearing and voting sessions. So with that in mind, would anybody like to make a motion to grant with conditions the requested variances to section 4.2.12, 4.3.1, 4.10.3, 4.10.8, 8.6, 8.8.5, and 8.8.6 to allow construction of a new 2-story single-family dwelling with septic system and well on an unimproved R10 lot in the AE11 coastal flood zone located in the conservation zone within the 100-foot of the coastal jurisdiction line and tidal wetlands for the site plan, including rain garden prepared by Angus McDonald, Gary Sharp, and Associates, Incorporated. Revision date May 8th, 2025, and the floor plans and elevations prepared by Seabird Architects and dated May 9th, 2025, and May 12th, 2025, respectively, and stamped and signed by the CBA chair.
But aren't we getting
Yeah,
a new
you're gonna be
table?
getting revised plans.
Yeah.
But isn't that going to be one of the conditions, that submit revised
That's
plans?
actually what I was gonna interject and add. I don't think you articulated revisions to your conditions if I.
Oh, okay, so I thought, maybe I didn't read it out, I had it written down here. Submit plans, updated plan zoning table with correct, accurate, consistent first floor elevation and overall height above average grade, 15.5 and 33.2.
So how many total conditions would be?
So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sorry, not
Yeah,
4.
5, okay.
Can I just,
Yep.
you were also, I mean, it was referenced as an exhibit during Exhibit 10, but I think you want in your file the measurements, that you were specifically relying on the measurements that you saw on the phone, that those be submitted.
Oh, okay, oh, so that's, that's not considered an exhibit because we already saw it, it's a condition?
It-
Oh,
I
a condition
would
that,
just say you're referencing.
to sit,
your
submit,
decision
also to submit,
includes the data that is in Exhibit 10.
also submit hard copy of Exhibit 10?
Well, and I think what Sylvia's saying is that you're making your decision based on the information contained in that Exhibit 10, which you don't physically have a copy of yet. So I think that she's looking for you to just indicate that the numbers you're using, the 15.5 and the 33.2, whatever that number
Yeah.
are based on Exhibit 10 submitted during the course of the public hearing.
The same way that you reference the site plan and the elevations, you're also including in that batch whatever the document
Okay,
is that
okay.
is Exhibit 10.
So submit updated plans, zoning table with correct, accurate, consistent first floor elevation and overall height, average height above grade 15.5 and 33.3, and exhibit.
As presented in Exhibit 10.
Yeah, but that,
That did not
exhibit,
present
exhibit
that,
10
yeah.
doesn't say all those things. Exhibit 10 just showed that the attic was less than 6 feet tall.
So I didn't see what Exhibit 10 looked like, so it's hard for me to reference.
Yeah, it was just the cross section of the
diagram?
house with the height of the below first floor, the height of the first floor, the height of the second floor, and the height of the attic. That was all it was.
So I think you can just condition that the pursuant to the cross section that is in Exhibit 10. You're
But,
saying
but it doesn't talk about elevation at all.
No,
Exhibit 10.
it's not the only thing you're referencing. I guess what Sylvia's saying is that just indicate that
Submit
that
Exhibit
that
10
it is a
and-
supporting document in your decision here. That basically
Okay.
she's saying that not only are these other things part of your decision making, but also the information contained in Exhibit 10 was part of the decision, part of the reason you came to the decision you did.
Should we say what is in Exhibit 10? I mean, it could come,
Well,
Exhibit 10 could look
It's-
different
it's-
when we see
It's
it.
been put on the record that the applicant is going to be submitting a physical copy of Exhibit 10.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you sort of read the numbers and
Yes.
the figures that were on Exhibit 10. My reason for saying that you should either put it in as a condition is because it sounded to me that you were essentially relying on what those figures were. So for example, if those figures were 5 feet more than what you saw in reality, or if they're built 5 feet more than what you saw, I'm gonna guess you're gonna have a problem and you may have made a different decision.
Well, I think, to me, it was a nice add-on, but you also have the elevation drawings. If you took that to scale and just measured it, you could probably see it was less than 6 feet tall. So I wasn't really concerned about it, but it was nice to see the numbers laid out.
I guess the question is, does the height of the attic
Yeah.
being less than 6 feet, is that something that is material to your decision making?
It shows that it's two stories rather than 2.5 stories.
Okay, so
So
that's,
if you
And
make it a condition, it's integral to your decision.
Okay.
If it's sort of just information,
To me, it was added information because we already have a zoning table that says it's 2 stories.
okay. So it's just evidence of
It's just
confirmation
confirming that it is 2 stories, so
then that's fine.
that fine meaning what?
Then you don't, then if it's just
Yeah,
evidence
don't
of
need-
something that you think is already in the documentation, then
Yes,
I
I
think
think
that's
so.
sufficient.
It was just supplemental information. Okay. So then the 5 conditions are the submitting the revised plans, zoning table with correct, accurate, consistent first floor elevation and overall height above average grade, 15.5 and 33.2. The Ledge Light Health Department condition, the FEMA condition, and the 2 gateway conditions. All right. I think I'm all set with that if everyone else is. Okay. So going back to, I read the motion up to the conditions, but I've reviewed the conditions again. I don't think I need to read them again. Okay, and then the coastal site plan review application is approved because it is consistent with all applicable coastal policies and does include all reasonable measures to mitigate adverse impacts on both coastal resources and future water-dependent uses. That's the last part of the motion. So would anybody like to make that long motion?
I'll make it.
Okay, Michaela got there first.
There you go.
Michaela,
you got good timing tonight.
Michaela, and seconded by Steve. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None. All those abstaining? None? The motion passed unanimously 5-0. I want to thank you very much. You really did an excellent job to try to minimize the impact and work with so many different groups to support your plan. Yeah, I bet. Thank you very much. All right. I think that was, the motion was made by Michaela.
This is, I'm lost.
Oh, this is Michaela.
Yeah, I seem to have an extra one. Who seconded it?
Steve.
That was, okay, just the opposite. Why do I have an extra line here? I have to close the public comment
So this one, everybody voted here
to close.
to close, that was
To close.
unanimous.
Yeah, okay.
5-0.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. It's not easy to follow
I
this.
got it. All
All right,
yeah,
thank you very
okay.
much. All right,
All right.
so thank you for that. So moving on, we're going to the, now the next part of the agenda, new public hearings. Next on the agenda, and seated for this case will be the five full members, myself, Kip Kotson, Stephanie Nichols, Steve Dix, and Russ Fox. Okay. The first case is case 25-3, 130-1 Whippoorwill Road. Request variances to lot frontage requirements for 2 new single-family dwellings to be constructed on 2 conforming RU 80 parcels located on a deeded right-of-way that intersects Flat Rock Road. Old Lyme Affordable Housing Commission is the applicant. The variance is requested is section 8.2.1, minimum of 25 foot of lot frontage. So with that, would the applicant please come up and present your case? Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, board members and alternates, Mr. Knapp, and Attorney Justice.
Rukowska.
It's been a while. I'm sorry. My name is Mike Carey. I'm with the law firm Sussman Shapiro, Wilburn and Gray in Greenberg in New London, and we represent the applicant in this matter, the Old Lyme Affordable Housing Commission. My partner, Jack Collins, is town attorney for the town of Old Lyme. We are not here in that capacity tonight. We're here in the capacity of, well, maybe we are in that capacity. We're in the capacity of town attorney representing the Affordable Housing Commission on this application. We are not representing you. We don't purport to represent you. We do not represent the Old Lyme land use agencies and boards. So I just thought I'd make that clear at the outset. I don't have a lot to say here at the beginning. I will introduce who I'm with. I'm with Fred Fenton, who is chairman of the Affordable Housing Commission. And actually, I'd be glad if they want to come up and sit here.
Yeah, you're welcome
That'd be
to
good.
come
And
up if
then-
you want. Just introduce yourself. Everything's recorded.
Hello.
Fred Fenton. And Mike Foliano is with us, past chairman of the Affordable Housing Commission, and I think it's safe to say the primary shepherd of this project to date from inception, well, maybe not from inception, but for quite a while till now. And he's a repository of information if there are questions that we can't answer. Also with us is Tom Metcalf, who I suspect is known to you all, civil engineer and surveyor who has prepared the application and the plans in support of the application. I'd like to, before I start, just give the board a copy of some minutes from a town meeting on April 15, 2024, if I might.
So this is Exhibit 1.
I guess it is, yes. Mr. Metcalf will have some plans, but they're the same plans that are in your application, just blown up. They're in your packet, I think.
Is there multiple copies? Okay, it's coming around the table.
I have, which might help.
We're not voting on this, so yeah.
I'm just going to mark this as Exhibit 1 and put it in the file.
I'll pass these up. This is a copy of a location map that I'll refer to when I speak. And
This
then
is
there's
already in the file.
yes, it is.
Yeah. So this is only
Both of these are in the file.
This is the minutes from the file?
No,
I don't think so,
they're not,
no, I didn't think so. Okay, do you want to, we'll put one copy in
I don't know
that
if I have
folder,
copies
too.
for everybody, but
It's just here, it's pretty abbreviated.
Yeah, just stick that in there.
The purpose in giving you the minutes, if may I speak?
Yeah, please do.
Is simply to have in the record the fact that the town meeting on April 15, 2024, transferred or approved the transfer of control of the it says 3 parcels of the McCullough property that we're dealing with here, that parts of which I think are the subject of the variance application. And it's through this control that the Affordable Housing Commission, I believe, has the authority to make and and present this application to you tonight on behalf of the town, frankly. I think the application is pretty clear in terms of what's being requested here and why. Mr. Metcalf will show you in documentary form what's involved. We're only asking for one variance on this one. And that's when the town acquired the McCullough property in 2019, as I recall and understand, there was the McCulloughs had, I don't know if it was insisted, but were certainly eager to have several parcels of that property set aside and devoted to single-family housing, affordable housing. And the Affordable Housing Commission is trying to meet that goal. And part of the process of meeting the goal will be to apply for subdivision. Of course, we couldn't have a subdivision approved if we don't have a variance from the frontage requirement. The parcels that would be created here do not have frontage on a town road, really could not have frontage on a town road.
Can I ask, because that was brought up, like, it says in the application that it cannot be made into a town road or a private road, and why is that?
Mr. Metcalf can
Okay.
address that.
it would be the geometry of the right-of-way. And just to, I think you're all familiar with the area of the property down at the end of Flat Rock Hill Road. And just on the small one I showed you that's got the color, the red line is Flat Rock Hill Road here. This piece actually connects over here. Couldn't fit it all on the map. So there's these two properties here are the affordable housing lots that were approved, if you will, I think probably 30 years ago. They were approved on a right-of-way, 50-foot wide right-of-way that these two parcels fronted on. At the time of that division, the regulations didn't require frontage on a road. They just simply required frontage on a right-of-way. So thus, the right-of-way that is owned by the town. To improve that to a town road, there's geometry standards within the subdivision regulations and the road ordinance that prohibit this from becoming a town road, and that it doesn't have an adequate area at the end for a turnaround, cul-de-sac.
Yeah,
So, just simply put, the geometry of this, the constraints of this, don't allow that to become a town road.
how about just a private road? Does it have to be?
Same thing.
Same thing,
Same thing.
any kind of road,
Any kind of road.
okay.
Now, the access to this, it will be a driveway, a 15-foot wide driveway. We'll have all the functionality, except for pavement. We'll have all the functionality that will be reviewed and approved by going through the subdivision process by the planning commission, which will refer it to the fire marshal, and if they refer it to the consulting engineer. So I think I can relate to you folks, there'll be assurances that there will be adequate access to these properties. It's a driveway, it's not a road.
Okay.
It's a matter of terminology.
Okay,
And right now, they're not planning to pave it.
At this point,
It
no.
could be paved in the future.
It could be, but at this point, no. I don't see a need for it to be paved.
so who would be responsible for like plowing it?
the four properties.
okay.
If an agreement can't be made among the four of them, there's a state statute for the last 10 or 12 years. I think it's section 47-42, small f, no parentheses, that sort of imposes maintenance requirements on common driveways.
Okay.
And I can't remember whether it sets a certain proportion based on the number of lots or based on some other factor, but the statute will address this if the parties
So there would be
can't-
access, it was a big snowstorm, they'd still have access because they'd be required to plow.
Yeah, and the lots that are already there are further up than we're going, these lots are going to be, they're not,
Oh, the ones that we're proposing are further up.
are further up than the
Yes.
two that are there now?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have to go, they've obviously been doing something over the last,
But that would be addressed with the fire marshal and all that sort of stuff, that make sure there's access to
And
those.
The
in case of
subdivision
emergency.
process.
and the planning
Okay,
commission.
okay, so we don't have to worry about that.
No, and we can't even frankly get to the planning commission unless we have this variance. So
They're going to handle any issues about safety and egress and all that.
I think so, but in
That's
the,
they usually do, yes.
Yeah,
in our
because,
app-
there was previous construction off of short hills and all that right nearby, and it was about egress and 2
Yep.
points of egress and
Yep.
all that. Somebody handles that, it's not us.
So
Right.
you're here just for the question about frontage on a right-of-way versus a road, and that right-of-way is going to have the scrutiny of many other groups and officials after us
yes,
to make sure that it's safe.
right.
No,
Okay.
it's along a road, it says 850 feet long, this right away. Yes? How
About
far
that.
down is it? I mean, is it at the end? Like, is that the end of the right of way?
Y-
And
yeah.
that's where the lots are?
Yeah, and I think on that small,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I just wasn't,
so,
so is this?
if I can,
He's
maybe, can I
pointing
just
Yeah,
hold this
if
up?
you
Yeah.
can point it out, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Flat Rock Hill Road, maybe I can go here. Flat Rock Hill Road comes down here and dead ends. Here's the highway, which shows on the map here. So, the highway comes along here. So this is at the end of Flat Rock Hill Road. There's an existing driveway
Right.
that comes off of that, and the driveway extends up here, comes up here, and comes into the second lot. So the driveway comes up and it hooks into this parcel here.
That's the pink thing on the.
That's
color.
correct. That's a driveway. It ends here. What we would be doing,
Orange and theirs.
I'm sure that through the subdivision process, we will have to make this portion of the driveway wider, 15 feet, and then extend the driveway another probably 200 feet to get to our parcels. And that would be most likely 15 feet wide.
Okay.
So,
So it's
how
not.
do we get to the 25-foot requirement
Well,
of access?
both of these lots have 25 feet of frontage on the right-of-way.
So it's perpendicular to the road?
That's correct. The driveway will come up,
Okay. So
and
that's-
at some point it
that's-
will split and go to each lot.
Okay.
And that's going to be the extent of it? It doesn't ride along the center of the division between the
No,
properties
um,
and add some more properties later, or not?
No, the configuration of this
Yep.
prohibits that.
Yep.
This is the end of the road.
Yep.
Not only that, but
Yeah.
the property of which this is a part
Yeah.
is subject to a conservation easement or deeded restrictions to maintain it as open space in perpetuity. So
Okay.
that's one of the reasons you can't do the turnaround, I believe, and that property is all subject to the conservation restrictions.
The total parcel is 81 acres plus or minus, encompasses the yellow that you see on the plan. It actually has a tongue that goes out to Whippoorwill Road. And that is all deeded open space with all kinds of restrictions on it.
Okay.
So this would, I mean.
So it's a very
So,
unique
Who
situation.
reviews all the stormwater management, water issues relative to this road?
Now,
That would be
planning-
through the subdivision process with again, if it goes to a consulting engineer.
So basically, we're here only on the zoning requirement, which has changed since this was first started, which says that it has to be a public or private road instead of a right-of-way. And all the safety management, water, access issues will all be addressed during the subdivision portion or other town officials after this.
Correct.
So this is a very unique situation because there is no other way to access this property because of the deed restrictions. And this is something that's been long-term planned.
Correct.
Apparently, it
Okay.
was a real goal of the fellows, and so that the deed
Yeah.
itself, creating the open space, has some very interesting cutouts for these parcels.
And, you know,
Any others?
I was involved in
Just these.
the development of the first two lots with Dave, which you probably all know him. He's a great guy. And I know
Dave
his.
Roberge.
Dave
Oh, Dave
McCullough.
McCullough. I thought you were talking about fire marshal. Okay.
And
He's all right, too.
I don't think that. And I know at the time, with that 50-foot right-of-way, again, with the mindset at that time.
Yeah.
That you could have frontage on the right-of-way.
Right.
You know, Dave, he'd always talked about another couple of lots out there, but the regulations changed, and
The Affordable Housing Commission has a memorandum of understanding from early 2025 with Habitat for Humanity of Eastern Connecticut Affordable Housing Partnership. And part of that agreement is that the 2 units will be subject to affordable housing restrictions, such that 30% or less of the total income received by a household that qualifies as low income the cost of ownership, including mortgages, rent, taxes, insurance, and utilities, that in total consumes 30% or less of the total income received by a household that qualifies as low income, based on household income of 80% or less. In other words, these are the standards set out in
Yeah.
Connecticut statutes. And the Affordable Housing Commission and Habitat for Humanity has every intention that these restrictions will be permanent. And as I understand it, the Habitat for Humanity will administer those restrictions going forward to ensure that they are complied with
Yeah.
for as long as they apply. Our application, I think, especially in the narrative part, talks about your standards for dealing with variances, and I think makes a good argument that that there is hardship, in part because the purposes of the frontage requirement can be fully accomplished in this case by allowing the use of the private right-of-way for ingress and egress and access to the properties. I would also, before I turn this over to Mr. Metcalf, indicate that your staff report from April 2, 2025 seems to me to not raise any objections and find that this is a very unique situation, not one that you would have to worry about turning up very often. And also points out, as has been pointed out tonight, that the requirement of frontage didn't exist when this project was originally envisaged. So with that, I'll be ready to answer any questions you may have, obviously, but I turn this over to Mr. Metcalf to just, if there's anything left to be discussed in terms of the physical layout.
I'd be happy to, talk more on just the layout. I think I kind of alluded to it.
Yeah.
The one thing that, and I believe it's come to you, but I'll submit it. With the initial submission, we didn't have a letter from Ledgelight Health District.
We've gotten that since
Okay,
then.
you've got it, so that's,
Yeah, we
just
have
want to make
that.
sure that's part of the record.
It is part of the record.
And I'd be happy, unless there's any questions, I really don't.
I just want to
think
see if we
I
can summarize and articulate. So the hardship is a very unique situation of a long-term town project where the regulations changed midstream, but the intent and purpose of those regulations will be maintained by the follow-on of the subsequent subdivision and official reviews.
Correct.
Yep. The purposes of the frontage requirement will be fully met here.
Okay.
We believe, even on the private right-of-way.
Okay, so just, if you agree with that,
And we also talked about in the application that the development of affordable housing is a substantial public interest, or is recognized as a substantial public interest of the state of Connecticut. And I think the accomplishment, or the adding to the town's ability to try to add affordable housing here furthers that public interest in a substantial way. And again, I think militates in favor of finding hardship and granting the variance.
Okay. So I didn't have any other questions. Anybody else have any other questions?
It's officially Whippoorwill property because of the
Yeah.
little cutout that goes out to Whippoorwill.
Yeah, I don't know
It's
how they-
actually sort of Flat Rock Hills.
Really?
Yeah, it's 130-1.
Yep, no, I just
Whippoorwill
noticed that
Road.
little
What
slot
will
that
the address
accesses
ultimately be? I
Whippoorwill.
guess after the subdivision.
The two affordable housing lots now, they have, I think it's 97 Flat Rock Hill Road.
Oh, okay.
So that those, I assume they'll have a Flat Rock Hill Road. I mean, they better. Yeah.
Okay, okay, so this is a continuation of a long-term town plan where the zoning regulations changed midstream, but the purpose is being addressed by subsequent reviews and officials, and it's in alignment with intent, purpose of zoning regulations in terms of, and the plan of conservation development in terms of developing
Yeah,
additional.
where do you put affordable housing into that conversation? Because it
Yeah.
seems to fit in there, but
I think it's just in terms of,
it's a
I think we
separate
just
thing.
say,
It's like FEMA, it's a separate thing.
I think we can say other, it's like, it's also in alignment with the plan of conservation development to improve
Yeah.
affordable housing in the town of Old Lyme.
Yeah.
That's kind of like an
Sounds
other.
like the right place.
Okay.
you call it
One
plan
of
of
your
what?
goals here
Conservation and development.
is again, to be in harmony with the town regulations here. This is sort of in harmony with the overall, regulations of the town.
So I think we've got three things: the hardship, the alignment, intent, and purpose of zoning regulations, and the alignment with the plan of conservation and development. Those are three good reasons, I think. I see Sylvia nodding. Okay, before we get any further, I also noted there was an application as a request for the board to waive the application fee due to this being a town, for a town land and town purpose, correct?
I think it was probably paid, wasn't it? So I
It's being asked to waive.
You guys have asked to waive it.
Yes.
okay.
So I guess my question to the board is, I think this is a reasonable request, that it's a town property for a town project.
Town paying the town.
Exactly.
And
So,
then take out the other
would anybody
one.
like to make a motion to waive the variance application fee for case 25-3, 130-1 Whippoorwill Road?
So made.
Kip and Russ. Kip and Russ. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? None. Abstaining? None. Motion passed unanimously 5-0. So your fee has been waived. Okay. Now let's open up to the public comment. If you have nothing else to present, we're going to open up for public comment. Okay. Would anybody like to speak in favor of this application? Would anybody like to speak opposed to this application? Would anyone like just to comment on this application? Okay, with no public comments, thank you very much. You did a very good job, and good luck with your project. So now we're going to, would anybody like to make a motion to close the public hearing for case 25-3, 130-1 Whippoorwill Road?
So moved.
That was a Kip, moved, we're here. Anyone like to second that?
Second?
Russ. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Abstaining? None. The motion passed unanimously 5-0. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. As before, only voting members may participate. In this case, that's Steve, Kip, myself, Stephanie, and Russ. No new information may be introduced after the close of public hearing. Members may be asked the staff or attorney procedural questions, and the board discusses the evidence presented during the public hearing. Potential conditions of approval agreed by the applicant. I don't think we had any at this time. And potential reasons for granting or denying the variances. So I think we discussed the unusual. This is a very unique situation. I think so. It's a continuation of a long-term town project where the regulations changed midstream. However, the intent and purpose of the zoning regulations will be fulfilled by subsequent reviews by the subdivision group and town officials. And it's in alignment with the intent and purpose of It's in alignment with the plan of town plan conservation and development to improve affordable housing in Old Lyme. Okay. What are you doing there, Stephanie?
I got some.
It's just to remind me, I can
Yeah.
write it up later.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, the evidence presented during the public hearing and the reasons articulated by the board within the public hearing or voting session. So with that in mind, would anybody like to make a motion to grant the requested variance to section 8.2.1 to allow construction of 2 new single-family dwellings on 2 conforming RU 80 lots located on a deeded right-of-way that intersects Flat Rock Hill Road per the exhibit map prepared by Thomas E. Metcalf, P.E.L.S., and Richard W. Gates, L.S., and dated February 14th, 2025, and stamped aside by the ZBA chair.
I'll make a motion.
That was Russ and Steve. Russ and Steve was seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? None. All those abstaining? None. The motion passed unanimously 5-0-0. Thank you very much and good luck for your plan.
Sorry. So
Right.
here, no conditions.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
why
so
is
just-
that there?
Yeah,
I don't
just-
know.
yeah.
Okay,
Just,
okay.
yeah, no conditions.
Yeah, just,
Okay,
that's awkward there.
thank you very much. So the next case is case 25-3C, 72 Corsino Avenue. Request variances to elevate existing dwelling on conforming R10 lot located in VE 13, AE 12 coastal flood zones. A coastal site plan review application was also submitted. Thomas and Ashlyn Larson applicant. This is a non-conforming structure on a conforming R10 lot. The variances requested are to sections 8.86, maximum height 24 feet maximum. Added on May 15th was 8.87, street setback 25 feet required. And 9.3.1, no enlargement of a non-conforming structure unless a large portion complies with regulations. I just want to say of note, I didn't see anywhere on the zoning table the building lot coverage, so maybe you'll touch
The
on
lot coverage, yes, we can
Yeah.
speak to that.
Yeah.
Coverage by structure, lot coverage.
Because you say ground coverage, but you don't say structure coverage.
Yes, we have both.
Great, thank you. I like that. Okay, and we received Connecticut DEP recommendations today. Did you receive them?
Yes, we did, correctly. Yep.
Okay, great. So we don't need to make that an exhibit because we've already got it in the record. Okay, so with that in mind, you have the
Alright.
floor.
I'm David Noe from 360 Design. With me is Mike Noe. Marjorie, the attorney, unfortunately is able to attend tonight. She's at another hearing. So, as you stated, this is for 72 Corsino Ave. We're seeking a variance to elevate the house to meet FEMA regulations. Currently, we're in a VE 13 zone, plus the town's 1 foot freeboard. The variances we're seeking is 8.8.6, which is a ridge height variance. Required is 24. Existing is 30'7", and we're looking to go to 36'6". We're also looking 8.
Is that written in your table?
I have it in my notes. I
Yeah,
must
we
have
have.
got it.
Yeah.
I think we have an
somewhere.
annotation. Oh, we give this first exhibit.
But I think that was confusing to me. I think we kept
This-
getting tables and they didn't have the same thing.
So that's an updated
Oh, this is new.
bulk area. Yeah, that can be an exhibit.
Yeah, this is exhibit 1 then. Thank you.
Yep.
We like tables.
And that includes the coverage by structure.
Good, thank you very much. Oh, good. Well,
No, what's that?
yeah, so do we have more than one copy of this?
Yep.
Because we need to, thank
Do
you.
they have one down there?
There's 2 copies.
Mike, can you hand out three? We only brought 3. I'm sorry, that's all.
Yeah,
Could you make a couple more, just, Eric? Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric.
Because we look at,
You can have this one. Yeah.
or we need one for the file and I need one for us to look at too. Okay.
Yeah, they don't have one.
They're gonna make a
We
few.
look
You
at
got
it.
it.
We take these tables very seriously. So we
They're the
really,
most important part, I think.
yes, exactly. So we appreciate you updating it and giving us copies.
Thank you.
While we're waiting for copies, you may just gonna look over your shoulder.
So,
Yeah.
You want me to keep going, or you want to wait for?
It's only takes a few seconds for him to make copies. This way I can get my paperwork out too. Yeah, because I think the most recent table we got didn't have as much information. It was confusing too. Sometime, one table said that, the most recent table we got said they're 10,018 square feet versus 10,538 square feet.
So there are two parcels, so this small piece here is
Oh,
owned by the same owners.
so it's all,
So in
adjoining.
the eyes of zoning is
oh,
combined
okay, that was,
for the calculations.
that is very helpful to explain why the difference is. We get confused when the numbers change.
I think the civil engineer forgot to add that to the calcs.
Okay.
Sure.
It is on the actual certified site plan as
Yeah, the one with just,
10,538.
that's what I was confused, because the site plan has that number, and then we got this one from the
Right.
attorney, and was like, what's what? Okay. All right, and then, so the building coverage, oh, that's, you added that, so that's under 25.
Yep,
Okay, that's with the stairs and everything, the decks.
correct. The only really added portion is stairs.
Building
rest-
coverage
right
is
here.
25, yeah. Thank you, Eric, so much.
Thank you, Eric.
Yours.
Thank you.
Did they get some down there?
I gave one down at the very end. there.
We got-
yeah, we've got enough.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
so everybody has enough here?
Yes, I think so. All right, so did you want to walk through the table first, or go through the, back to your, whatever you plan to present? I don't want to interrupt you.
Sorry, so the first one we talked about was ridge height variance that we're asking for from 30'7" to 36'6". Second was 8.8.7, which was the front yard setback. The existing house line right now is at 25 feet, which meets the setback. And the existing stair is at 21 feet. So the house will stay in the same location at the 25 feet, and the required variance would be for the new staircase at 16.8 feet.
So I guess a question I had about the new staircase, that looks like more than just staircase and a landing. That looks like a deck.
Yep, so the reason that we had to provide a larger than normal staircase is the location of the door into the house is right here. The location of the electrical panel is on the corner of the house right now, and required by the electric company and electric code is that they have to be able to access that via a stair and a landing to access the meter for service. And then also, again, the location of the driveway in coming up required us to do kind of the switchback.
Yeah, I guess a lot of times when people raise the house, the entrance come from underneath the house without
Correct.
having to put an external staircase, and it just seems like you can put the electric panel somewhere else, and it doesn't have to be in the front setback. To me, it's like, that's one of my biggest questions, is this whole deck and stairway in the front of the house.
Okay.
A lot of times people the stairway is underneath. You walk, you have garage doors, you can have a
Right.
door to the front, then you have stairs going up, and you don't have to have this big deck in the front yard.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that was partially due to the existing electrical panel being there, the electrical meter.
But this is a reconstruction, not a raising the existing house, isn't it?
I know, just a house lift.
Oh, because that was my confusion, because in the variance application it says a reconstruction.
Oh. It should say.
So-
just-
I have raised
Why do they need
existing.
to read the meter? I mean,
But that's what it said in the,
I think that's Eversource's requirement.
Eversource comes and reads our meters, it's a car going
That's
down
the
the
thing,
street
right.
with a little flashing light.
Right.
It's all done Bluetooth or something else, so I don't understand why that's a consideration.
They have to be standing on a platform with a meter no higher.
So they want to have access at some point to maintain the meter or do something with it?
Correct. So yeah, part of the DEP requirements here, ensure that the structure's elevation, electrical, and AC units meet FEMA regulations. So they have to be raised up and they have to be accessible via platform, by stairs actually.
Yeah, so
Even running
having it on an existing deck wouldn't count?
You would need stairs to need stairs to the deck, correct?
Not back stairs?
Like back here. So they need to be able to, my understanding is they need to be able to come to the house without you home to
Yeah.
access that panel.
Yeah,
We've
okay,
been running into it quite a bit where we have a panel like on the side of a house, say over here, and we need to run a set of stairs up to just a platform all by itself.
yeah.
It's kind of
I don't know if that's useful.
unattractive.
It's showing the meter and the stairway and all that.
correct. Yeah.
Here's the application says, new construction or reconstruction of a principal building, yes. But you're saying it's lifting?
It's just lifting the same structure.
Oh,
yeah.
that was confusing,
Yeah.
because at first it was, is it a lift or is it construction? Okay, so that's limiting your ability to do things.
Yes, so
Yeah.
we're literally asking us to take this non-compliant structure, which is low, and bring it up. Part of the reason we have to bring this up is, number one, the 50% rule, because the structure underneath is actually having difficulty with all the high water and flooding is really starting to erode and deteriorate some of the concrete.
Ah,
They've done work down there to reinforce beams, and there's a lot of moisture getting into the structure underneath. So part of it is to clean this up, get the air moving underneath it, put in the required flood vents, and meet FEMA requirements for the 50% regulations.
What happens with the garage?
The garage, when we bring the house up, what was the existing garage here would be infilled with floor system, and then there would be garages underneath the structure.
So you're planning to add more living space also, right?
Correct.
In the garage area?
Yep.
The former garage you want to make into living space?
Right.
And then park underneath now?
Yep. Yeah, so when we bring that structure up, essentially because that garage has no floor, right, there would be a big hole. So we're going to fill that hole in with a floor system, and there's an office in there and a couple other things as part of the existing envelope of the building.
So it's not expanding.
no.
No, not the
Just
footprint.
the living space is expanding, because it was formerly a garage.
Right, the FAR stays the same.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you have to go up additional height because you're trying to get a garage underneath, or is that the parking underneath is just a natural
Yeah.
available space for that because you lifted it the correct height?
Yep, so
Can you show the elevations? You probably have the elevations there?
FEMA's 13,
Yep.
and then we have the freeboard at
Extra
14.
Yeah.
And then we have a 16-inch beam that has to go underneath the existing floor structure.
Okay.
And then the existing floor puts us at, I think it's 16.2 inches, something like that.
Yeah.
Above.
Because this is VE, not AE, so it has to be it has to be a foot between the base foot elevation and the bottom of the
Right.
floor. Not
So
the
the-
bottom of the structure.
Down structure, yeah.
Yeah, that horizontal member, the bottom of
Yeah.
the horizontal member has to
Yeah.
be at 14 feet.
So what is actually 16.2?
Top of
The
existing
top of
first
it,
floor, yeah.
okay.
And then so we have a beam here, this is the bottom of the beam at 14.
Great.
We have a 16-inch structure to tie all these piers together so they don't rack over. And then that's the existing floor system in here.
And that's 13 because of FEMA and 1 for us. As a
Correct. Yep.
So basically, it's the minimum height required.
Right.
That's what we like to hear. All right,
And what's the drive-in under height? Is it 8 feet there, or what is it total? 10 feet? No, underneath. Yeah, that's
Right
space.
here, like you know those garage doors there.
I know it's the minimum. Just curious what that turned out to
So 5 to 14, so 9. It would be 9 feet to the underside of beam.
Okay.
So it's like an 8
be.
foot
Not
garage door.
obnoxiously high. It's what you're supposed to be asking for by.
Yeah,
FEMA
this
regs.
14 we can't lower that.
Yeah, no,
by
I get
code.
that.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess some potential conditions of approval are based on DEP comments, structures, elevation, electrical, and AC unit to meet all FEMA VE flood zone and local flood management standards. You have no, since you designed it that way, you have no problem that being a condition of approval.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. And ground level storage area to have flood vents and be designed with breakaway walls.
Yeah, so we will have flood vents per
They're not
FEMA.
marked there, but they will be there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then these panels will all be breakaway. So we'll have the engineer structure them to
Okay.
break away from the piers
Okay.
in the event of a flood.
And what anchors the whole thing to the ground? Is it pier, just pier structures? And
so
there's no impervious concrete as a bottom slab or anything like that? Or is there?
There would be a friable slab
Okay.
in the event of flooding that
Yeah.
is intended to break up.
Breaks.
Yeah, I think it ends up, the engineer designs that for us, but it ends up being, I think, a 3-inch slab
Okay.
with no rebar in it. And you know, made
And that
to
would be,
break apart.
that's better for the property because compared to like
To gravel.
stone, gravel, yeah.
Well, it protects some of the moisture from coming up, you know, just from the moisture from the ground with all the structure.
Is there any way to, I'm sorry, I didn't mean, you finished that conversation, I was thinking.
No, that's good. I was just trying
Yeah.
to get the lay of the land, what
Yeah.
we're getting there. I mean, we are aiming for safety target. It's a FEMA title for what we're gonna be talking about in
Right.
a lot of ways. So I wanna make sure that this is a genuine improvement in every way it can be.
Correct.
And a question I had is, there's a lot of, it looks like you're making, and you had before one driveway to one garage, now you're having a wider driveway to 3 garages. Is that all impervious surface?
Yes, we did add to the impervious surface. We are still below the 30%. We're at 25.4, Mike. Ground coverage, 25.2. So we went from 20.7 to 25.2, and that was part of enlarging that driveway.
As impervious.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, make sure we're all on the same page about calculating. So like maximum floor area ratio, you said it's 21.4, but looking at the assessor's card, it looks like it's 25. Because it's 1176 on the second floor, 1178 on the first floor, and 432 of the garage, which is 2686, which if you divide by 1050, 538 is 25.5. So I'm wondering, are we, when you're saying you're under the coverage, are we all the same on the calculations?
Yeah, when we go out and measure the house, we calculate all this. We often find they aren't correct with the
Assessor's card?
Assessor's card.
Okay, so the assessor's
Yeah.
card was overestimating.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're confirming though that is the numbers?
Yeah, on the FAR.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we measure the whole house down to half an inch, and then
Okay.
we perimeter it to the outside of the siding.
And in this case, the second story is wider than the first story?
Correct.
So you took that into account as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this overhang here.
Yeah, okay. I guess there's no real way to make that front deck step smaller that you could think of.
I mean, we did spend time with the client trying to find other ways because, you know, we didn't want to come closer to the road.
Yeah,
And,
and it just looks like a deck in
you
the
know,
front yard. You're not supposed to have a deck in the front yard.
How wide is it?
it's 8 by 15 at the top here, and then this is like a walkway over to the front door.
It just seems like a lot. Is it, and it's connected to the other deck?
This is here, yeah. Yeah, it does come around the corner.
Okay.
So it's like a wraparound.
Yeah, this is existing here on the on the east side, south side. That's existing, and then there's an existing covered, an existing set of stairs along the front here. So what we've added is this section and then the portion in front of the electrical panel.
To clarify, this is actually existing on the second story, but we're stacked,
Yeah,
so it's not any new coverage by structure, but this first floor deck is new.
and the spiral staircase goes into a cutout in the roof,
Correct.
which wasn't there before, but you're putting it there.
Yeah,
That's why I
what
thought
we
maybe it was a
did is-
reconstruction.
What we did is actually remove a portion of the roof.
That's what I saw.
And then it's not accessible from the interior
Yeah,
because the attic actually is below 6 feet.
yeah.
So the only way we could get up there was on an existing deck to add a spiral staircase.
Okay.
Would they consider making the driveway permeable?
We could ask.
I think, yeah.
Tom, would you guys consider?
My question to you would be,
You have to come up front
Yeah.
and
so
introduce
one of my
yourself.
questions to you.
Wait. You have to say who you are and
Sure,
then.
Thomas Larson, 72 Cursino Avenue. So one of my questions for you would be, is it's under the allowable
course.
ratio?
Yeah.
You know, and we would like a
Yeah.
paved driveway. You know what I mean? We get a
It's
lot
not
of,
like we
we get a
really
lot
have-
of water down there. We get a ton of flooding in that neighborhood, and you put in gravel, it's just unfortunately probably gonna wash out.
Well, pavers. Pavers
Well,
would work.
And it also adds to the expense of it.
But I think the thing is,
I
It's-
guess my question would
yeah.
be, what would be the benefit to you guys of that, is my
Well,
question.
it's to the environment, just to have the water, I mean, you're in a low-lying area, that's true, and that the more water can just drain into the ground, the better. For floodings in the rest of your yard and the road, you know,
it would be
run
something
right
that,
down to the road.
I would prefer not to, so if it becomes a condition of approval, or it becomes an issue,
I don't believe we're asking for a variance for it at this point.
yeah, I mean, it's
No.
part of,
It is a 10,000 square foot lot, and and any of his runoff that would come from
And
downspouts.
we did-
Mostly the flooding events there, I mean, it's standing water all over the whole
I
damn
mean,
property, whether there's a slab
currently
of
when we have
concrete or
flooding,
not.
we get 4 feet of water in our basement right now.
wow.
I mean, I could show you pictures if you
You're right
want
next to
to.
that little stream.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're just trying to
Yeah.
do the best we can with what we
So we would
got.
hope that stormwater runoff.
And we did, in somewhere in the calculation, there is stormwater runoff in the difference in,
Yeah.
with that, and it was very negligible.
Higher up a watershed, if you decrease permeability, it increases flow downstream faster and gives lots of people problems downstream. You're in the puddle at the bottom.
We're at the bottom of it.
You're in the
already.
puddle at
Yeah.
the bottom. It really
Unfortunately.
doesn't have the same impact. That would be my.
So if you look in
Representation.
somewhere in the, I think in the site plan, there was a calculation done for the stormwater.
Oh, can you
Uh,
read
Is that
it
what you're
up?
pointing?
The stormwater
What are you
runoff
reading?
and what
If I
the
can
change
read
would
this
be, and it would be
properly.
very negligible.
Okay. I think the thing
So
is,
pre-
since it's, go ahead.
For a 100-year storm, pre-construction was 2.51 CFS. Post-construction was 2.46 CFF with a delta of 0.13 CFS.
What do you mean pre and post construction?
So like with
So-
the driveway the way it is and with the driveway the way it would be.
Correct.
On the side of the lot.
And right now it's paved?
Yes.
Yeah, this portion is paved here, so I'd be adding this portion.
I think this is pretty much a standard lift minimum to accomplish that. And you're within your zoning regulations. It's not like you're asking for more. We're not trying to trade off for something.
Right.
Yeah.
If it matters, by the way, 813 of your regs, it says that when you're calculating and measurement of total ground coverage for a residential use, off-street parking and driveway area is not counted. towards-
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So, you know,
They're within cover. They're within range. But it's just we always ask
I understand.
for environmental reasons if you can make it more pervious. But I think it's not like we're trading off for something. It's not like you're
Right.
wanting something more and you're giving up something. You have the right to cover that much.
Yeah, I do think Tom makes a good point. I mean, even if we did a paver, I think that's going to eventually wash away
With that
when you
much
put the
water.
sand in between the pavers. I would think with the amount of water they get,
Yeah.
these are me refixing those pavers all the time, resetting them, rebedding them.
I don't think
Unfortunately.
they're designed to be underwater and wave action.
Right,
And
right.
when you're down at that bottom puddle at the watershed, the only thing you can do to save anything in your property is lift some of it up a little bit so it's not underwater.
I would think your biggest concern is erosion. You know,
Exactly.
the movement of the water
Right.
that can destroy whatever you've got there. So that concrete would be more durable.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we're at elevation 4.5 here, 5.4.
Wow.
So we're really,
So I mean, if
You're
you
really-
guys wanna see what our basement looks like, when it floods, this is what we currently have now,
Ouch.
Yeah, do we need to make that as an exhibit?
if you want.
Now that you've showed it to us, you have to
No,
email
because
it.
that's a health and safety issue. You're a resident of the town surviving that episode.
So
It's
we're gonna-
health and safety consequences.
And
right,
this,
right,
and this
there's definitely
is,
safety issues down there.
Tom, you can speak, so the foundation walls are actually settled.
yeah, so our foundation is currently cracking. I mean, this is what our house looks like in a fairly normal flooding
Okay,
event.
so now we have two more exhibits. So
That's great.
now I'm just saying, but you need to email them
Yeah, no
to
problem.
the town, to Eric or Craig, and we're going to label them exhibits 2 and 3, photographs of flooding inside and outside the house.
Yep.
'Cause those would
Okay.
be relevant to our considerations,
Yes,
I
yes,
think,
yes.
and most people sitting here.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
it just shows what
you're
now you
dealing
can
with.
see what we're going through and
Yeah.
why it would be nice to not have our driveway wash out as well.
All right. Does anyone else have any more questions?
I actually just have a quick question for you.
Sure.
So the sort of pond that's in front of your house, does that raise any issues with like in the wetlands or anything like that?
No, so we're not actually in the inland wetlands jurisdiction.
Tidal
According to-
wetlands.
And we're referring to the one in the rear of the house, correct?
It's the rear of the house, yeah.
Pond, it's a remnant from swamp.
Yeah, it's not technically
It
wetlands.
doesn't show on our wetlands map at this
Okay.
point anymore.
All right.
At some point, we'll try and come up on it again, but as of right now, it doesn't officially recognize as being a pond. So-
Good question, though. Good question.
But we will be providing erosion control during construction to keep sediment out of those ponds.
So I think, so that gets back to the conditions of approval. It's basically just the two of the ones from the DEP that we mentioned, ensure the structure elevation, electrical, and AC unit meet the FEMA FE13 zone and local flood measurements, and ensure ground level storage area has flood vents and is designed with breakaway walls. Those are both agreed to.
Yep.
Okay.
And do we have to say anything about the erosion controls
Well,
during
you-
construction? Do we need
Yeah,
to
I
say
think
anything
it's
about
good to
that?
have it in there, just that you're
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
Okay.
standard, you know.
And it'll
like
be part
everybody.
of the site plan.
I think it was part of the coastal area management application that we submitted.
Right, and it's marked on
it
the map, but
was
we
in
can add
there.
that too. I thought since it was already on the map, but we can add all three of them on. You're okay with adding it, that third one? Okay. All right, you answered my questions, so this is a lift, not a reconstruction, and you can't really make that front deck smaller, because it's not really a deck, but it is a landing and an access to the electrical, because you can't move, because that's where it is.
Correct.
Okay. All right, and did anybody else have any questions before I open up to public comments? All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Did you
you.
have anything
Thank
else
you.
you wanted to mention, or?
I think we're all set.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to go to public comments now, yeah. Anyone like to speak in favor of this application? Would you please come up and say your name and address?
John Swartz, 68.
Make sure you come close enough.
John Swartz, 68 Corsino Avenue. I'm his next door neighbor. And I went through this whole thing with Sandy and had to raise my house up, add 6 feet to the foundation, move my electrical service from one side of the house to the other where there were some existing stairs in our design. So I'm very familiar with everything that he's going through. And I think the only part of his that's VE is that whole marsh area off to the side. It's not where the house is. The house is still AE like mine is.
Well, I think that from the map of the survey, the deck is in in the VE zone, and if any part of the structure is in the VE zone, the entire structure has to be VE zone upgraded.
Oh, I didn't, okay, I'm sorry.
No, that-
I read the map wrong.
No, it's a good question, it's a good question.
But I do support them because I went through the whole thing myself.
Well, thank you very much.
no
Yeah, but
problem.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Anyone else like to speak in favor of this application? Please come up, and when you come up, come all the way up before you say your name and address so we can get on the recording.
Josh Hazelwood, 65 Corsino Avenue. We're a neighbor. We look out over to the front of their house. And I, like the Swartzes, live in a house that was lifted. I didn't do the lifting. We bought the house after it was lifted in 17. And it's an absolute necessity to keep the neighborhood viable. And
Yes.
there's no place for the water to go.
Yes.
Impervious, doesn't matter. It's not going down. It's going sideways.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. Would anybody else like to speak in favor of this application?
Hi there. My name is Gary Tufano, 19
Could
Fifth
you speak a
Avenue.
little more clearly?
My name is Gary Tufano, 19 Fifth Avenue. I'm actually the backyard of Tom in
Okay.
Ashland. So I can attest that there is a serious water condition problem there, and lived through many storms and floods, and I think it's a necessity that he should have his house raised to prevent any foregoing problems. That's all
Thank you
I have.
very much. Appreciate it. We always like when neighbors come and talk. Would anybody else like to speak in favor of this application? Would anybody like to speak opposed to this application? Would anybody like just to comment on this application? Okay with that? Thank you very much. If you have anything else to add?
I think we're all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, with that, would anybody like to make a motion to close the public hearing for case 25-3C 72 Corsino Avenue?
So moved.
I'll
Kip.
second that.
Steve? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Abstaining? None. The motion passed unanimously 5-0 to 0. Okay, same rules apply after the close of the public hearing. Only voting members may participate, no new information may be introduced, and we can ask staff and ZBA attorney procedural questions. And discussing the evidence presented during the public hearing and potential conditions of approval agreed by the applicant and potential reasons for granting or denying the variance. So I think the unusual hardship is, as we've just said before, legally an alternative to legal hardship is the minimum required to become FEMA compliant. That's this case, to a T. There's no proposed reductions in legal pre-existing nonconformity. It is the minimum to address the hardship. They've shown that with their elevations. Excuse me. All right. The agreed conditions of approval were the 3 recommendations provided by the Connecticut DEP in their comments to the coastal site review application, which is, you don't have to write these down because I haven't written down. Okay. Ensure installation and maintenance of appropriate erosion and sediment control measures during the planned period. Ensure that the structure's elevation, electrical, and AC unit meet FEMA FE 13 zone and local flood management standards. And 3, ensure ground level storage garage area has flood vents and is designed with breakaway walls. And those were all agreed by the applicant. And then the other, we had support from 3 neighbors. That's nice.
Oh, we had the images of the flooded house.
Excuse me?
Images of the flooded house.
Yeah. We'll put that as exhibits in the minutes, but okay. And it's in harmony with the intent and purposes of zoning regulations because it improves health and safety. Okay, did anybody else have anything else to add? Oh, and then the evidence presented during the public hearing and the reasons articulated by the board within the public hearing or voting session. Anybody else have anything else to add to those reasons? Everyone's agreement? Okay. With that in mind, would anybody like to make a motion to grant with conditions the requested variances section? This one I want to clarify. So it's 8.86, 8.87. I'm making sure I got it. This table doesn't have the numbers, I wanna make sure I got it right.
These?
8.86, yes, it is right. 8.86, thank you, Kip, 8.87 and 9.31 to allow elevation, not reconstruction, of a non-conforming dwelling on a conforming R10 lot located within the VE 13 AE 12 coastal flood zones to become VE 13 FEMA compliant for the site plans prepared by RCL Thompson LLC and dated April 3rd, 2025, and the floor plans and elevations prepared by 360 Design Plus LLC and dated March 20th, 2025, and stamped and signed by the ZBA chair. The conditions are, I'll read them again. Ensure installation and maintenance of appropriate erosion and sediment control measures during the planned period. Excuse me. Ensure that the structure's elevation, electrical, and AC unit meet FEMA FE 13 zone and local flood management standards, and ensure ground level storage garage area has flood vents and is designed with breakaway walls. And the coastal site plan review application is approved because it is consistent with all applicable coastal policies and does include all reasonable measures to mitigate adverse impacts on both coastal resources and future wetland uses. Would anybody like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Steve, I think I heard Russ first.
Yeah, Russ got it in.
Steve, and seconded by Russ. Okay.
I heard Russ first.
Okay, sorry, you're close.
No matter.
The speed of sound.
Yeah. Okay, Steve,
All right.
Russ second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? None. Abstaining? None. The motion passed unanimously 5-0. Thank you very much and good luck with your elevated home. And thank you for the updated table. We love this. Okay. All right. Oops. All right. So let me just put this paperwork away and I'll get set up in a second. Okay, moving on. Just remind everybody, case 25-5307 Swan Avenue the applicant has requested in writing the opening of this public hearing be delayed until the June 18th ZBA meeting, so that's done. Then we're moving on to case 25-6, 36 Homestead Circle. Could somebody ask them to be quiet, please, or close the door? Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, Sarah?
He's part of the noise.
Yeah, really.
Okay, no problem. Okay, request after the fact variances for completed dormer that exceeded parameters approved in previously granted variance. Applicants seek new variances to address this discrepancy. Judith Kissane and Kevin Dreyer applicants. There's a non-conforming structure on a non-conforming R20 lot. The variances requested are to sections 8.89, minimum side setback 20 feet required. I think it was requested was 9.1.3. I think we mean 9.3.1. We always go through this. No enlargement of a non-conforming structure unless a large portion complies with regulations.
Okay, yep,
Okay.
sure.
And the ZEO has stated that there are some additional variances that we required. You said this memo, 4.3.1 and 4.10.3, closer than 100 feet to the coastal jurisdiction line, mean high tide line, and 8.8.10 maximum floor area. And I think in the original variance, you also had a variance to 4.2.12. No, that one is 50 feet of a tidal wetland. So do you agree to amend your application to also request these variances?
With the exception of floor area, because the dormer does not have floor area, it's not a 12-foot ceiling height, so there's no increase in floor area.
It doesn't increase, it's not
One
any,
floor, there's no second floor, there's no increase.
but it's bigger.
But it's not floor area.
Okay, so adding the dormer did not increase
It's
floor
like what
area.
you have here, just vaulted ceiling.
Okay.
Like less than 12 feet.
Okay. Oh, you have picture, yes, thank you.
The,
that little area where I put the dots.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go through that, and then we'll introduce the others as well.
So that was floor area before, and so adding the dormer didn't increase floor area in that part of the house.
That's just a kitchen with a dormer.
So it raised the ceiling?
One floor.
But I'm saying compared to what was there originally.
So there was no dormer there originally.
Yeah.
We came in October 23
Yeah.
and got approved the dormer.
Yes.
That you see there now in that photograph and the other ones that we provided in the application.
Oh, I see what you're saying, because that was floor area already. It doesn't change the floor area.
It doesn't change the floor area.
No, it's just raising the ceiling is all it's doing there.
Okay.
If
I just
it-
want, is Eric's okay with that?
If it exceeded 12 foot in height though, the way Old Line defines it is we have to count that twice.
Yeah,
But it
okay.
doesn't exceed 12.
So you're okay with
It's not 12.
4.3.1, 4.10.3, and 4.2.12?
Yeah, those are fine.
Okay.
We did talk about those initially. and we think
This is
we-
going to be
we weren't-
Exhibit 1, sorry.
So since we weren't getting closer to the title, the initial discussion was to not have to include those, but those are fine to add. We are adding some square footage. As you know, this entire lot.
Actually, is that a different picture than it's already in there?
Yeah,
Yeah, it is
that's a
different because it's
picture.
marked.
Similar, but it's
It's
different.
marked. And it's marked with the area that's different.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. So this is 36 Homestead Circle. Judy Cassane, Kevin Dyer, the owners are with us here, and they also brought along their builder who constructed the addition that just handed you that photograph. So he will get into some details about the construction
Great.
that occurred. We discovered this. Eric asked for an as-built. He asked me or my office to go out and check the improvements to make sure they were consistent with the original approval. Unfortunately, we discovered that one discrepancy, but at the same time, we also discovered that the deck that was rebuilt was 12 square foot less than what was approved. So we have 12 square foot less structure coverage. The 19 square feet that's added for that dormer, the 1.6 feet on that side,
Yeah.
in green on this plan, is 19 square feet, but it doesn't add coverage because it's over the house
Yeah.
already. It's on top of the roof. So we're actually slight reduction within that title area in overall coverage, and the plan has actually been reduced because everything was just made a little bit smaller on that side. So that was one betterment. But we did, or the original dormer was supposed to not violate that north side yard setback. And since it was made 1.6 feet larger in that direction, it now violates
Yep.
that setback by 1.5 feet. The river is over here. The next door neighbor, who would be the most impacted residential neighbor, can't see it from there. I did provide a photo there from the neighbor's perspective. We also have a letter from him,
Yeah.
which I'll read it into the record. But we did provide some photographs.
Is that what this one is? Oh, view of.
So on the second page of photographs, we show the house at number 34 Homestead.
Yeah.
And then we just turned right around and we took a picture looking to the south.
They're saying you can't
Of
see
number
it.
36.
This is
And
the deck.
yeah, the idea is you can't, over that little peak in the back, you just can't see this.
And you have a letter saying that they're okay with it?
Yeah, I have a letter which I'll just read last and give you a copy of.
Yeah.
And that's from that particular neighbor there. Okay.
Did you just say the address just for the record?
Yeah, well, if you want, I'll just read it. Huh?
Yeah, that'd be easier.
Okay.
Now we can make an exhibit 2.
Sure. So this is a letter of support from the neighbor to the north. I live next door to 36 Homestead Circle. I have no objection to the oversized dormer that was constructed. It is not visible from my house and has no impact on me. The changes that the owners have made have improved the neighborhood, and it's signed by David Scanlon and Rochelle Scanlon of 34 Homestead Circle.
Okay, great.
This one says, witness by. So 33, there was a neighbor that witnessed that. Okay.
Okay. We're not that legal.
But it's all original science.
All right. This is going to be exhibit 2.
So there's no doubt that that's from the neighbor. We don't usually see that, but
Yeah, you're very diligent.
Witnessed.
Okay, you put this with the file. Thank you.
so, obviously the hardship is the same as before. This property is small, it's 100% impacted by all the title setbacks, as you read into the record before. Anything that's done on this property requires a variance, at least of those title setbacks. Since that little green area there, 1.6 by 15-ish, was just constructed over that line, that's why we have to come back, because we violated that setback line on the north side. So that's really the only dimensional variance we're asking. We're not, the dormer did not get any closer to any of the title setbacks. Actually, the deck got a little tiny bit further away with that reduction. So without further ado, I know that Judy wants to say a few words about the construction here, and then the contractor,
Yeah, 'cause I think we'll
per Eric's
explain-
request,
yeah.
explain the constructability and why it grew a little bit in that direction.
That would be helpful. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone comes up, just speak your name for the record.
I'm Judy Cassane, 36 Homestead Circle.
Speak up. Sorry.
I'm Judy Cassane of 36 Homestead Circle.
I'm Kevin Dyer of 36 Homestead Circle.
Thank you.
So we were shocked and surprised and distressed by this. We wanted just to, self-advocate for the kind of people we are. Kevin can tell you specifics, but we've tried to improve the property before we did anything to the house. We've invested, a year's worth of planning by Joe and great expense for the septic system that was failing. It wasn't affecting our house yet, but it was polluting, so we did that by choice, which then required us to put in a new well. Kevin, you want to talk about the asbestos?
We remediated the asbestos that was in the attic. It was the granular asbestos, so we had that removed. And we also, on the advice of the Coastal Commission, we put in our riparian buffer.
Starting that, which was a requirement of...
We love that. Thank you.
First attempt, we'll see.
And we removed the asphalt driveway in preparation for, we haven't started it yet, but we'll put either gravel or some other permeable surface there when we are able to spend the time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're, our home is in Glastonbury too, and we consider ourselves stewards of the environment. We're into bees and all that. And so we're trying to do the same thing for the property that we're trying to improve here. And also, we both wanted to say that, we really highly respect our neighbors, and they've been wonderful. And we have very good relationships with them, and we wouldn't dream of doing anything to damage that relationship.
Thank you very much. It sounds like you're really conscientious so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Right. Now I want to hear from the contractor. Explain this.
What happened? Tell us what happened.
I'll tell 35 years, I have never built on a home where the building line ran right through the center of the home. That being said, I did measure, and I think my error was, I'll present this. There's where the old chimney was, you can see the hole in the roof.
Yep.
And I measured to the chimney. It was 20 feet. I said, oh, we're all set. And then if you see that where the structure point is.
I'm just writing Exhibit 3 on here.
Okay. This is a microlam here, and it goes straight down to this central wall. And then the central wall is exactly where I put the dormer over. I just assumed, and it was my error there, because I thought the chimney was right in line with that wall, and it turned out it wasn't. So I did not intend to make that error, although had I known this was the situation, I think we would have asked for that 18-inch variance at the beginning, because structurally that's the way it had. I mean, that goes from the beam on the roof straight down to the central wall, straight down to a basement wall, down to the foundation. Structurally, that's the way it kind of had to be built. It didn't have to be built that way, obviously, but it lent itself to the best way to do it, that we would have asked for a variance for that 18 inches.
Would you say that it made it safer and
Oh,
stronger?
my Lord, yes.
Okay, that's what we like.
Massively stronger, and well, I mean, it puts the load not in the middle of a beam, but on top of a wall, and that's
Yeah.
always, that's always the way to go. And you can see we put the big micro lamps up top, the 14-inch.
So
So
is it-
there was some load there.
It was
but
an inadvertent error
It was.
in constructing what you thought was the safest, strongest approach.
Yes, and when I measured to the chimney, and if you can see the chimney and that wall aren't exactly lined up, and I thought I was fine. You know, I didn't,
Yeah.
you know, when you're building and the building line goes right through the house, you know,
Oh, yeah, sure.
who puts any thought into that?
So was the chimney removed? Is
Yes,
that-
there's no
was-
chimney
it
anymore.
was there?
It's heated with a heat pump, so no chimney required. And the chimney was massive, and it went right in the middle of the house. I mean, it was like it took up, I would say, probably a quarter of the floor space.
Oh, okay.
So it went.
And what Joe is saying is that even though it's slightly larger, there's an actual decrease in the coverage on the property because the deck is a little bit smaller.
The way the deck was originally, the staircase was out at the end of the deck, and it was a big 4x4 platform.
Yeah.
And I put the stairs further away from the line into the house a little bit, and so the stairs went down further away from.
Okay, so that was a.
So compared to what you had been granted, it actually, you'd advertise it as a net positive. It's actually a little less impact on the property than what you were originally granted.
It is absolutely less
Environmentally so, and so it's better environmentally.
Environmentally, it is
safety.
much better. Safety, it's much better.
And also the impact to the neighbors is not detectable.
I mean, if you
so
look
that's
at
the reason for setbacks.
I mean, the design was brilliant. I loved it. You know, like when you stand in the house now, you get to see the river. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But my error was not paying close enough attention to the property line.
Yeah.
And even if I did, then I would have gone back to him and I would have said, I wonder if we could get a modification for the variance because it's just so much stronger to do it that way.
Okay.
Are there any fines, Eric? Any fines for not building as?
No, because the building official doesn't, from a building code standpoint, it doesn't really matter to him. So he signed off on it fine, he's on the building code. From a zoning perspective, I couldn't give a CO on it because it didn't meet the variance that was granted by this board. But if you amend the variance and grant a new variance, at that point, we're sort of back in business again. If you don't grant the variance, then they'll get a CO, and that's where we are. But I haven't started any enforcement action. Again, the first thing I did was say, Joe, give me an as-built. He gave me an as-built. He saw it was a problem. They came to you with a problem. They're trying to remedy these situations best they can. If you don't grant the variance, we'll figure out where to go from here. But at the moment, there's no penalty beyond the fact that I had to hire Joe back.
Congratulations to you for being so conscientious and accurate and fastidious in your application of what got built compared to what was granted.
Whenever I
It's
grant
wonderful.
the zoning permit for a application that has a variance on the building permit side, it comes to me with the zoning approval.
Yeah.
I always write right into it, because there's a variance here, you will have to give me an as-built. So when we get to the end, I go back, I look, I say, as-built will be required per my original approval. I got one. Joe was candid enough to say, well, looks like we don't make it, and that's why we're here tonight. So,
Which, coincidentally, is one of the reasons why I wouldn't have tried to cheat.
Yeah.
So, because I knew that
We like picky guys.
an as-built
job.
survey was coming.
Thank you so much.
And then also,
Oh,
and
more
this is,
pictures?
no, I'm not, these are
Oh,
just
okay.
pictures. I turned 60 tomorrow, so I'd like that in the record. Yes.
Happy birthday. All
We'll
right.
try and get you out here before midnight.
So let me. So,
Got a lot of deliberations.
well, if no one has any questions, I have to open it to public comment. Would anybody like to speak in favor of this application? Would anybody like to speak opposed to this application? Like to just comment on this application? No public comments? All right. Does anybody else have any more questions for the applicant or the contractor or Joe Wren for, before we close the public hearing?
Yes, just one last thing.
Yes,
for me.
please.
So, when I first went out there, took pictures, I saw it. To me, you can't even tell that there's a difference at
Right.
all. until I physically measured, and I had to measure and remeasure and remeasure. And that's when I determined there was an 18-inch difference in that direction. You can't really tell, you can't see the difference. It's so small.
Yeah, and it's very inadvertent, and it's if anything, it's a lesser impact on the environment because of the moving the staircase, reduction of the deck, and so it's kind of
The actual deck too we noticed was about a couple inches different, not as wide as it was originally. So.
okay. Well, thank you very much. So if no further ado, would anybody like to make a motion to close the public hearing for Kate?
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a primarily lawyerly distinction between a modification of a variance and a new variance, just for ease of conversation and the record and so forth. I would like to confirm with the property owners that they are intending to abandon the ability to increase the deck to what the current variance says.
Oh, yeah, we're done.
That should be a condition, maybe, that, no?
No, he's just putting on the record.
It's just a representation that by pursuit of this, they are abandoning whatever
The
additional
original
square footage is with
variance
respect to the deck.
granted, right?
Yeah.
They're abandoning it, you're not conditioning, they're doing it
Okay.
willfully and intentionally.
That's and but
No, that
I
makes
think
sense.
it's
That's good.
and I think we'd capture because in the reasons we're going to say it's environmentally improved because of the deck is reduced by 12 square feet or whatever it is.
I mean, but what about the next homeowners? They sell the house, the next homeowners come in. Nobody's going to look at the minutes to our meeting.
But you're going to put in here that this basically supersedes and replaces the earlier variance, so that the earlier variance is deemed void. Okay. So that when they look at the new variance on the land records, it's going to say right on it, this again supersedes and replaces the previous variance of whatever the volume page is, and we're going to take care of it that way. Okay?
Good. Is that what you're getting at?
The only clarification I have on that is the original application did have variances for the deck. Whereas this application does not have variances for the deck because we're less. So I don't want to abandon what we got before because we did get variances for the deck. We're not asking for new ones because we're less. So yes, we're abandoning that extra couple of inches.
Right.
And we're not going to enlarge that.
Yeah.
So as long as that can be clarified in the record, we want them to be able to keep the deck that's
Yes.
there, that's smaller than the
So I guess since I'm not sure the subtleties of the legality of amendment versus modification, what are we doing?
So I think there's a new variance for that northern side yard setback, but then there's an amendment of the variance for the deck, right? Does that make sense?
Sure, you could do it that way.
Well, let's listen to.
Well, so if we didn't have the new variance, I would say that this is just a modification because it's probably not material in all of the reasons that you already have. Because we have the new variance is why I'm probably more inclined to say that this is a new variance. I think you can, and I think Eric's memo, I think, does a good job of sort of articulating what the difference is. So I think you can just say that the property owners have articulated their intent to abandon any additional square footage between the original variance and what's on this particular site plan. Because I think Joe did a good job of actually showing where the difference is on the site plan.
Okay.
And presume, am I correct with that, Eric?
So that means, so the motion, so let's just, while we're all talking and it all is open up, let's talk about what the motion would sound like, because usually I have a certain standard way I do the motions, and we're going something different now. So I say, so the motion would be made to grant the requested variances. So then we said it was 4.2.12, 4.2.3, 4.10.3, 8.8.9, not 8.810, and 9.3.1. Those are the variances that we're requesting now to address the completed dormer that exceeded parameters approved by the previously granted variance per the site plans prepared by Indigo Land Design and dated March 31st, 2025, and stamped by the CBA chair. And then we would say this supersedes or the prior variance granted in 2015? No, not 2015. No, what was it?
2023.
2023.
What? 23.
Would it be
The
supersede?
site plan supersedes. I don't think the variance supersedes because this is only a variance for that piece.
Oh, so
Okay,
we're
so
only
this
granting
is-
a variance for,
That piece. Yes,
But-
and one of the reasons that you're granting a variance for that piece is because they've articulated their intention to abandon the additional portion of the deck that they would otherwise be entitled to. So
Okay.
you don't have to use all those words, but
okay, because then I'm clarified, because there's 4.2.12, since you can't expand a structure within 50 feet of this wetlands, but they have expanded it. So we'd still need 4.2.12, and the same for 4.3.2, 4.10.3. We're adding 8.8.9, and then we need 9.3.1 because you're expanding a non-conforming structure. That's why I thought it might be easier to say, we're granting these variances per this site plan, and it supersedes the one from before.
So the reason the distinction between modification and new variance is essentially whether or not you need to prove hardship. Okay, so in this case, you have a reduction that could justify
Yes.
the new
Right,
violation. So
right.
We're
That's-
probably square.
We're
there.
square there.
Is the size of the deck just constrained by the current as-built plan anyway at that point?
Ultimately, it will.
Yeah,
be.
I mean, when we say as per plan submitted, you've now got the truncated deck as
as-built.
part of the plan, so you're frozen there?
Well, so if the previous variance is not modified or amended or however superseded, they theoretically could bump that deck back out because it remains on the land records for previous variance. So I think you want to make clear that your reasons for granting this variance are the shorter deck, and therefore that is basically,
Abandonment of that part of the variance.
They
the
will no
original.
longer be able to use that portion of the original variance.
Because we always, in our record of decision is we say the reasons, and this time the reason would be to offset by the reduction of the deck.
Size
The size of the deck.
Abandoned, I thought the word abandoned was.
It's the same functional thing. They're voluntarily choosing to do that and saying that they have no intention of going back to the original variance.
Right, because the deck was a variance to get the deck. So therefore, they're reducing the size of the deck to offset and make a net reduction in nonconformity for the increase in the dormer.
Can you simplify it by saying the variances granted for the deck in October 23 are replaced by this site plan?
As it pertains to the deck.
That's
what. So I guess, yes, if you can do that, I would just appreciate that is the alternative to hardship.
Right.
Because if you're doing that, I just want to articulate hardship on the record as opposed to if you were just doing a modification, in theory, you don't need to articulate a hardship. So I'm just trying to put all the pieces in.
Okay. So if I'm understanding this correctly, let me say, we have a legal alternative hardship, which is a reduction in nonconformity to offset the increase in dormer size, which is a net reduction in nonconformity.
Yes. And then Joe's
Use
language
the deck
is fine.
size, and that's
And
our
then-
justification for
You need
adding
to repeat
this.
it now.
And then, and then the minimum, no conditions, it's in harmony with the intent purposes of zoning regulation because it improves the environmental impact on the property. Right?
I like the safety angle that you added into your part of the discussion, but listen, it's a
Right.
safer property
It's an
because of this.
it's an improvement because it's safer and more structurally sound. Okay. And it's supported by the neighbor. That's the other. And the evidence presented during the public hearing.
So we're still in the public hearing.
I know, but we're just
Getting ready.
I'm just making sure we're all on the same page for the reasons before we close the public hearing. Okay. And the evidence presented during the public hearing and the reasons articulated by the board within the public hearing or voting session. So you have a hardship. We have alignment with 10 purposes zoning regulations, and we have other, which is support of the neighbors, and we have two reasons for the intent purposes zoning regulations. Two reasons it's in harmony with 10 purposes zoning regulations is because it reduces the environmental impact on the property because of the smaller deck, and it results in a safer and more structurally sound structure.
Yeah.
Okay. And then based on that, then we would make a motion that lists all variances.
You want to repeat your language?
Sure. Variances granted in October 2023 related specifically to the deck are replaced by this latest site plan, this application.
So am I saying that in addition to what I have here or in replacement
I
of
think so.
Okay. So the motion, to grant with condition, to grant requested variances to section 4.2.12, 4.3.2, 4.10.3, 8.8.9, and 9.3.1, sorry, to address completed dormer that exceeds parameters approved in previously granted variance per the site plans prepared by Indigo Land Design dated March 31st, 2025, and stamped signed by the ZBA chair. And the site plan for the previously granted variance
Is replaced.
is replaced, the previously granted variance for the deck is replaced by this plan.
This application, I would say probably. The plan is part of the application,
Yeah.
so are the requested variances, I would just say that.
Okay.
You probably, just for clarity, want to reference the number of the previous variance, which is 23-13C.
Okay. Okay, so we have to help Stephanie here. So the first part is all the same, but we're just adding the part about the variances granted for the deck in application 23-13C is being replaced by the variances outlined in this site plan.
In the application.
In the site plan, this application. Okay.
Yeah,
We
so
don't usually have to do this, so that's why we're learning with you along how we do this.
No, we appreciate it. Oh, it's very clear. It makes sense. It takes
Okay.
a little time.
All right. So while we're still in the public hearing, is everyone on the same page now? Okay. Based on that, would anyone like to make a motion to close the public hearing for case, whatever the heck this number is?
25-6.
Okay. 25-6, 36 Homestead Circle.
So moved.
Kip?
Second.
Russ? All those in favor? Aye. Abstaining? None. Opposed? None. Abstaining? None. The motion passed unanimously 5-0. Same rules after closing the public hearing as all the other cases. I need to repeat that again. So, the board has discussed the evidence presented during the public hearing and potential conditions of approval agreed by the applicant. There are none. And the potential reasons for granting the variances prior to making a motion. The unusual hardship is, the legal alternative to unusual hardship is the reduction of a nonconformity that offsets the proposed increase in nonconformity, resulting in a net reduction in nonconformity. Whatever you have there, it's close enough. Okay. It's in harmony with the intent purposes of zoning regulation because it reduces the environmental impact on the property and it results in a safer and more structurally sound structure. It's also supported by the neighbor and the evidence presented during the public hearing and the reasons articulated by the board within the public hearing and voting session. Everyone's on the same page and agrees with those. Okay. Yay. Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion to grant the requested variances section 4.2.12, 4.3.2, 4.10.3, 8.8.9, 9.3.1 to address completed dormer that exceeded parameters approved in previously granted variance for the site plans prepared by Indigo Land Design and dated March 31, 2025 and stands signed by the ZBA chair. The variances for the deck granted in application 23-13C are being replaced by the variances granted, or by this, are replaced by this application.
So moved.
Okay. Russ,
No second.
Steve, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, abstaining, none. The motion passed unanimously 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with your house. I know, we have to do everything legally so that
Yeah, there you go.
nothing can happen to you too, so this is great. All right, thank you so much.
Give my card to your friends.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. So I knew we'd need you for that
That's
one.
not
That was,
midnight
we've
yet.
never had that one before, so that was a good
Yeah.
learning
Okay.
experience. All right.
I don't think it is.
I don't think you need to stay any longer. Stay, you can take off now. We'll get the regular meeting. Okay, really quickly, no old business. The new business is we have one new application we need to receive and set the public hearing for. I can't turn this page. Okay. Case 25-7C, 7 Champion Road, request variances to reconstruct a non-conforming structure in an existing location on a non-conforming R10 lot in the VE14 coastal high hazard flood zone to comply with current FEMA regulations. A coastal site plan review application is also submitted. So that was, I think we need to receive that, and we scheduled that for the June meeting.
Okay.
And I think that's,
So we have two.
Possibly
two.
Swan.
yes, yeah, possibly 307 Swan. Okay, then just a reminder to everybody, the next month's meeting is on a Wednesday. Is everybody gonna make it? I know, Russ, you can't make it because of your anniversary.
You're staying what week?
It's Wednesday, June 18th, because Juneteenth is a Thursday, which is a
I'll
holiday.
get back to you about it.
Okay,
I might not be able to make it.
okay, so this is important, because we gotta make sure we get enough alternates.
I can make it.
Okay.
But I'm gonna be like coming from, Litchfield,
Okay,
and so I'll just be here at 6:30.
that's, but if we know you're coming, that, we know you're always here, okay.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Brian, does that work for you?
As far as I know.
Okay. Steve, that works for you?
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, okay, because if, we already know Russ isn't going to be there, and if we want to make sure that,
Who's not
and
coming?
Russ and Michaela said she's not sure.
I'm not sure, yeah.
Okay.
But she's an alternate, so.
Okay, everybody, once you know, let me know, because we need to make sure we have 5 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, right
Does that
now,
look-
I'm coming for
Yeah.
Russ.
No, I don't have anything on my calendar, but I am so bad with getting used to digital calendars. It's really
Okay. What I'll do is I'll send a reminder out like a week ahead of time, just to remind people it's Wednesday and to confirm you can coming, so we have enough people to make it, so that would be good. Okay, that was it. Anyone have any comments on the meeting minutes for April 17th, 2025? No? Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes for April 17th, 2025?
I'll move.
I second.
Oh,
She did last week.
that's right, you were seated last week, so Michaela?
Oh, wait, I'm not seated today, though. Oh, yeah, no, I was, yeah.
You were seated for
I
part of
was- I was
it.
seated
I
for
think
part
I
if
can't
the,
vote.
for the 5 people who were here, let them vote. What do you think?
Well, I mean, she was seated
I
for
was
those
seated
minutes.
for-
and
Yeah,
therefore, I
that's-
think she's allowed to move for minutes she was seated for.
That's what I think. The 5 people that were here last time, if they're still here, we can go.
No, I can't.
So who seconded that? Maybe Stephanie, you haven't said anything yet.
Okay, Stephanie. I do. Second.
Seconding. Okay, all those in favor of the 5 people who were here last time? Aye. Opposed, none, abstaining, none, the motion passed unanimously 5-0. Would I like to make a motion to, anybody have anything that I want to add before I ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting? Okay, anyone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah, me.
Stephanie. Stephanie, and would I hear Steve?
Yes.
Steve.
Okay.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, abstaining, none. Motion passed unanimously 5-0. And we are closing the session at 8:53.
I am amazed.